Love in Deep Space Antidotes. Caleb, Pathless Realm. Chapter 1. It was morning when the rain finally stopped. Caleb takes his time getting out of bed before throwing on a t-shirt. With a toothbrush in his mouth, he groggily makes his way to the mirror. Patrick walks up to him, nudges him with his elbow, and yawns. "They're announcing the test schedule today. Are you nervous?" From the top bunk, Gideon leans down. "Please, Caleb's the last guy to be worried about anything. In 2 weeks, the Aerospace Academy will hold its most crucial graduation flight assessment. The test will account for 50% of their final grade, and the top-ranked student will have the chance to join the Deep Space Aviation Administration as a trainee pilot. It is an unwritten tradition and everyone's dream. The training ground is busier than ever before the Aerospace Academy students take turns entering the spherical chamber of the human centrifuge the moment their names are called. Once activated, the chamber will spin rapidly to simulate the various accelerations encountered during flights in space. This is one of the most critical tests for aspiring pilots. The experience at 8G is intense. Internal organs are being pulled and strained, and your heart rate and blood pressure will skyrocket. Each session leaves you feeling like you gained a new understanding of what it feels like to be inside a spin cycle. Timothy stumbles out of the human centrifuge looking like a ghost, and Patrick quickly hands him a sickness bag. Gideon and Caleb turn away in perfect sync. They cover their ears to block out the miserable sound of vomiting behind them. Caleb is the only one who walks out of the human centrifuge without a falter in his step. He even lazily stretches as he walks. That stubborn hair strand flattened by water earlier is sticking out under the effect of anti-gravity. "I'm starving. Let's grab a bite to eat after class." "Come on! How can you even think about food right now?" To no one's surprise, Caleb ranks first in training. Although everyone is used to his flawless performance by now, they still grumble and insist he treat them to a meal. When he is asked why he wanted to become a pilot, Caleb said that pilots earn good money and it's a respectable profession, especially since he has people to take care of. Patrick actually felt his heartache for him at the time. Later on, they learned that Caleb entered Aerospace Academy with top marks in every subject. And one of the people he cares for is a girl about his age. She's going to become a hunter. But she's tiny. She just stands there and looks like a small cupcake. "I will smack you if you don't shut up." Since the Chrono catastrophe, being a fighter pilot has become a profession sustained purely by passion and conviction. From the rigorous assessments to the extremely hazardous conditions, whether in aerial combat or combat missions on the ground, every aspect means you are more likely to die. The special Deep Space Tunnel Patrol missions brought in additional challenges, such as psychological strain of extended flight hours. Few students from their class remain. Some were eliminated during annual selections, while others succumb to their fears and ultimately choose to leave. As a result, a course on mental health was added to the curriculum. While it doesn't count for credits or is officially graded, students must complete 10 counseling sessions outside of their regular training hours until they pass the evaluation. When the evaluation results are out, Caleb's mental health score is the lowest category. It's the only subject that he needs to retake, and it stands out when you compare it to his perfect grades. The issue isn't considered severe, but everyone is stunned. Did you sleep through the test or just write your name? Even if you went to the office and recited the pilot's code of conduct, the teacher would cut you some slack. Caleb lets out a small and says something came up that day, so he missed the test. "Can't be helped, I guess. I'll start working on it today." Gideon sees the test results on Caleb's phone and quickly scans through the multiple choice questions before his eyes land on the essay section. The prompt is as follows. What do you consider to be the greatest challenge during flight missions? Caleb's answer was, "It's hard to get home on time." Gideon was speechless. In the mental health evaluation column, the final result has only one line. Psychological consultations are recommended. Patrick doesn't know what to say. He looks at Caleb, who's putting on his G-suit. "Dude, are you twisted inside?" "I don't know. Maybe I lost my marbles a long time ago," Caleb replies cheerfully. Chapter 2. Dreams. Among the four dorm mates, Timothy is the odd one out. Born into a family of fighter pilots, he scored perfectly on every theoretical test, but constantly ranked last in practical assessments. If he were to be honest, he doesn't like Caleb. Whenever he hears others praising their rising star and lowering their voices when he's nearby, Timothy can't help but compare himself to Caleb. And Timothy always comes to the crushing conclusion that he's not even close. If he can't easily win, then he'd rather lose with apparent indifference. This is a defense mechanism carefully crafted to protect his pride. In the quiet hours of the night, specifically after his third attempt at the human centrifuge, he stumbles into the break room while clutching his violently churning stomach. He's exhausted, physically and mentally speaking. To make matters worse, leaning against a locker and watching him with concern is the last person he wants to see. "Caleb, what are you doing here?" Caleb sets down his carefully made but bland-tasting meal and hands Timothy a drink with electrolytes. "I had to come in for my mental health interview. I haven't eaten yet, though. Do you want some?" "No, thanks. Someone like you would probably get pulled into the team as a rare talent, even if you failed, since you have the gravity evol and all." Noticing the bitterness in his voice, Timothy quickly says in a casual tone, "But if you don't pass the assessment, then the rest of us will be failures." "You act like nothing matters to you. So what's your actual reason for becoming a pilot?" "Well, I guess it's my childhood dream." With his G-suit half undone and hanging loosely around his waist, Caleb leans back on his hands and sits on the table. "Planes can break through any barrier and go wherever you want, right?" "Is that it?" "It does sound like something from an essay you'd write in grade school, doesn't it?" He chuckles. "But that's how I feel. If the chronogrift catastrophe happens again and the world ends, maybe I could fly somewhere else to escape." Caleb rests his chin on his hand and looks up at the blue velvet night sky through the skylight. He seems to be genuinely considering the possibility, but his casual attitude about this makes something twist in Timothy's chest. He can't quite name the uncomfortable feeling. Maybe it's just jealousy. Whether those words are true or not, speaking so openly about one's dream takes immense courage in his eyes. It's a privilege reserved for naturally talented winners who easily achieve their goals and aren't afraid of failing because there's no gap between their dreams and reality. He isn't Caleb, who becomes the center of attention wherever he goes, like the sun. And what kind of star radiates isn't warmth, but rather brilliance, a blinding light in itself. It makes gloomy people like Timothy want to look away. But the sun will always be the sun. "What about you?" Caleb crosses his arms and leans forward. His expression is earnest. Timothy hesitates before answering. "My father is a retired pilot. You know how it is, following in your father's footsteps. I don't really have any dreams of my own. If I don't make it as a pilot, I'll try to stay and become a counselor, or I'll just go home if that doesn't work out." "Then why don't you hit the pause button in the chamber if it's not important to you?" That's because... Come on, the training room is still open. Do you want me to practice with you for a bit?" Timothy instantly recoils. He practiced fleeing as he pushes open the door. "No thanks, I need to head back to the dorm." 1 week later, during the graduation flight assessment, everyone in the observation room watches as Caleb, the first to enter the cockpit, appears on the live feed. The cabin door is sealed shut, and the tail fins and flight indicator lights come to life. His headset blocks out the powerful wind, and the engines roar while the hissing airflow stirs up the dust particles. After receiving clearance from the control tower, Caleb puts on his helmet with a slight nod. He grabs the metal necklace he's wearing and brings the pendant to his lips for a gentle kiss. It's a ritual he performs before every flight. During the final countdown, he lowers his helmet visor. Weather data and route information are reflected in his pupils, and amidst the interplay of light and shadow, his hand grips the control stick with unwavering confidence. The room falls silent as everyone waits for the countdown to end. Noise suspension system activated. 10 seconds to launch. 5 seconds remaining. 3 seconds remaining. 3, 2, 1. Chapter 3. Night Flight. The aircraft smoothly rises through the blanket of clouds and gradually flies into the pitch-black deep space tunnel. The familiar sensation of weightlessness creeps through Caleb's body and mingles with a thrilling reverberation. It's as if humanity's most primitive curiosity and desire for exploration that's encoded in their genes is being awakened. Caleb loves this feeling. Here he is an outsider, trespassing in a world that isn't his own. Caleb recalls a lecture. An old man from the Deep Space Academy said that even with today's rapidly advancing technology, humans have explored less than 0.1% of the deep space tunnel. They haven't even touched what lies on the other end. Maybe the day humanity reaches the other end of the deep space tunnel will be the day they unlock the secrets behind the protocore, energy, and the Wanderers. The scholar's words have been burnt into his memory since they were delivered with such fervor. But Caleb doesn't care about these grand visions. His desire to become a pilot comes from himself. On the holographic map, a small section marked as safe zones show the aircraft's green indicator slowly pushing back the surrounding darkness as it ventures into the fathomless deep space. Compared to the safe flight zones designated by the DAA, the unexplored regions remain as large swaths of darkness on the map. The mission is to recalibrate the navigational beacons along the flight path. The environment in the deep space tunnel is complex, and previous explorers have mapped out the currently known routes. These beacons serve as signposts. They're like guides who lead others through a desert. The patrol aircraft tail sensors are tasked with recalibrating 7 beacons. The first few are completed without a hitch, but for the final one, the aircraft's wings start shaking violently. Storm particles batter the cockpit's windshield, hammering against the tempest. At the same time, the observation staff notices something is wrong. The video feed goes dark, the protofield anomaly readings spike, and the signal begins cutting in and out. Caleb returns immediately to base. An instructor, Zaki, shouts into the communications terminal, but the comm signal is fading. It's gone after one chaotic burst of static. The green dot represents the patrol aircraft, vanishes from the tracker, as if it never existed. When I count to 10, you can open your eyes, okay? When Caleb opens his eyes again, he sees a girl standing beneath a tree. She's not facing him, and she's covering her eyes. They're playing hide and seek. He needs to find a place where he won't be found. With that thought in mind, he turns and walks into the shadow cast by the building. He knows it's the perfect hiding spot. The courtyard is completely silent as the girl finishes counting to 10 and eagerly spins around to start her search. Caleb, where are you hiding? Don't you dare use your evol. Don't you remember our promise? You'll be the hunter and I'll be the pilot. With you on the ground and me in the sky, the whole world will be ours. How do planes fly, though? And if you're flying around in the sky, how will you come back down? It's like flying a kite. Someone on the ground holds the string, and once the person in the sky feels a tug, they'll fly back down. When you miss me, just whisper my name in your heart. Can you do that for me? But the ground is so far away from the sky. What if we see each other less often? Don't worry. I'll be flying in the sky above you. I'll be one glance away. He regains consciousness, but his mind still lingers in the hazy realm between dreams. He doesn't know how long he's been unconscious. Multicolored indicator lights flicker weakly on the control panel. They're the only signs of life in the silence. The protofield's turbulence completely disabled the navigation system, and while he was unconscious, the emergency survival protocol was activated to maintain cabin temperature and differential pressure. The backup fuel reserves are almost depleted. Prepare for failure before departure. That's the first lesson Caleb learned at the Aerospace Academy. But he doesn't want to fail. He only wants to win. With most of the power systems shut down, only the weak distress beacon remains in the lit patrol aircraft. Like a paper boat that has no way of knowing when it'll reach home, the aircraft drifts alone in the depths of the deep space tunnel. Removing his noise-canceling headphones and visor, Caleb sees his reflection in the cockpit's transparent glass. After thinking for a while, he decides that he should write one last letter. Until now, he never imagined death. To him, flying always felt like a life-affirming chase of freedom. No bird imagines falling when it takes flight. But where would the paper and pen be in the cockpit? Never mind. Despite being used to it, the dull pressure in his temples is becoming harder to tolerate. He slumps back in his seat, his mind drifting as he considers the chances of a rescue aircraft reaching him. Even if they can overcome all the obstacles to reach this unknown location, his remaining fuel won't last long enough for them to find him. Caleb suddenly remembers his third psychological conditioning class, where the instructor discussed the meaning of death with him in earnest. When people look down from a great heights, they experience an illusion of owning the world. It's a powerful feeling, where everything within sight belongs to them, as if there were no darkness too deep to dispel and no boundary too wide to cross. But for humans, flight itself is ultimately an illusion, one that always carries the risk of falling. Every flight could be a one-way journey, so you must find your own reason to keep going. His hand moves to his chest, the necklace pendant engraved with the words, "When you come back," still rests close to his heart. He can still feel the lingering warmth from when those fingers brushed against his skin. Chapter 4. Escape Velocity. The rescue aircraft finally finds him on an abandoned floating island far from Skyhaven's main isle. As expected, the flight positioning system was severely damaged by electromagnetic interference. When the rescue robots detect signs of life, they find the pilot in the cockpit. He's covered in blood and his face is barely recognizable. The young pilot who vanished a week ago somehow made it back alive. The flight parameters from the black box are almost entirely consumed by white noise. No one knows what he's been through. The only clues come from reconstructed return flight data. It reveals that he somehow flew in the opposite direction of his intended route and crossed through the unexplored pathless realm. The cost was 3 broken ribs and a significant lung damage. After a month of being in the hospital, his 3 dorm mates visit him. They heard about his injuries from their coach, and each step into his room with heavy worry. Concerned, Gideon turns to Patrick. "When we open the door, stay calm. It doesn't matter what we see." Patrick nods. Among the 4 roommates, he has always been the most level-headed, yet now he stares sadly at the flowers in his hands. "Do you think he can even hold these? After what happened to the aircraft, who knows what conditions he's in?" Timothy remains silent. Usually he would take pleasure in seeing his rival's misfortune, but he finds himself wrestling with complicated emotions this time. Even if he doesn't want to admit it, he thinks a brilliant rising star shouldn't fall from grace like this. Behind them, the wind pushes open the half-closed door and carries their voices into the hospital room. The rehearsed solemnity awkwardly ends as Gideon takes the lead and steps inside. Sunlight filters through the curtains and illuminates the game controllers and comic books scattered across the hospital bed. Despite the IV being fixed to the back of his hand, Caleb is holding the phone between his ear and shoulder. He speaks in a cheerful tone. "Got it. When you're at my graduation, I'll make sure you get a front row seat. How does that sound?" "Yeah, someone's here to get me for training. I'll go home my next break, and then we can go anywhere you want. I'll follow your lead." As he hangs up, Caleb finally notices his 3 visitors standing still in the doorway. They're clutching fruits baskets and flowers. After enjoying their rapidly changing expressions for a bit, he pauses for dramatic effect. With full sincerity, he asks, "What's wrong? Do I have a terminal illness now?" Caleb survived virtually unscathed, and during his month under surgical observation from the orthopedic medical team, his vital signs miraculously returned to normal. While the hospital equipment detected that his body had been exposed to some unknown electromagnetic radiation in the deep space tunnel, current observations show no negative effects on his health. He might even be discharged after 2 weeks. Hearing this, the gloomy atmosphere disappears. Gideon pulls up a chair beside the bed and eagerly gets into academy gossip. Only Timothy remains quiet, falling into his usual role as a background character. When he first heard about the crash, his initial disbelief quickly spiraled into despair. So what's actually behind that no-fly zone? Some super ancient wanderer? Or is it a legendary gateway to another dimension? I saw people from a civilization on a higher plane of existence. They keep glowing pyrocords as pets, and they invited me aboard their spacecraft. Really? What did they look like? What did they tell you? If you want to know, you have to fly there yourself. Wait, you just made all that up, right? When visiting hours are over, Gideon and Patrick share the good news. They both passed their flight assessment while he was recovering. They might even meet with the day AA in the future. When Timothy notices Caleb's gaze turn to him, he forces himself to reveal a sheepish smile. Me? I'm not taking the assessment. Anyway, we should go. In the elevator, he realizes he left his withdrawal application in the hospital room when he was in a rush to leave. When he reluctantly returns, Caleb is still resting against the bed with his eyes closed. Why are you giving up? Caleb asks. He seems less concerned and more curious. After the incident, they lowered this year's flight assessment difficulty. Gideon and Patrick performed well, but Timothy still couldn't reach the finish line with the time limit. Admitting this in front of someone would be murdering his reputation and pride. He turns and looks at Caleb for a while, but Caleb just watches him curiously from the hospital bed. It's as if he can't imagine the reason. Unlike you, I'm not one of fate's chosen ones. It's so easy for you to claim victory, even moments between life and death. You somehow managed to slip away. He heard bits and pieces from Zaki about the Aerospace Academy immediately launching a rescue operation after the incident. They used the final navigational data from the beacon to track Caleb down. In one of the deep space tunnel unsafe areas, the aircraft's autopilot miraculously held out for dozens of hours and carried him through the turbulence. I was lucky, huh? Surviving the deep space tunnel and getting back safely. Caleb's tone is casual, but the mirth has faded from his eyes. That's why I deliberately cut off the signal. I gave up on coming back. The fuel was below 10%, even with the minimum power mode activated and the aircraft system only running its most essential functions. It wouldn't buy a lot of flight time. Instead of waiting for rescue, I thought I could take a chance. Aren't you scared of dying? I am. Terrified, to be honest. Caleb calmly looks at him and smiles. But my desire to reach my destination is greater than my fear of dying. Chapter 5. Arrival. See you after our break then. Bye. His friends' voices pull Caleb back to reality. Gideon and Patrick had already run to their train. They wave at him through the window. At the same time, the train to Lincoln appears near the opposite platform. He lowers his eyes to the message draft pinned to the top of his screen. I'm back. After thinking about it, he slowly types the backspace key. He can't explain why, but imagining her reaction when he suddenly appears before her is enough to make him smile. Well, look who it is. Josephine's boy is back. Caleb, take some fish with you. It's on the house. Caleb, we need someone to be the master of the household while we play pretend. Do you want to join us? Caleb declines his neighbor's invitations with a smile. As the sun sets, footsteps and voices grow soft and languid before melting into the dusk. As his key turns in the lock, the warm, familiar scent of home greets him. He enters the living room and goes upstairs. As expected, her room is the only one with the lights on. Past the slightly ajar door, he finds her asleep at her desk. She's surrounded by half-wrapped gifts and unused ribbons. One card reads, "Congratulations, you passed the selection," while the other says, "It's okay if you didn't pass." Caleb unconsciously smiles at her carefully written words. In the dimly lit room, sunset light filters through the curtains. Light and shadow alternate as they cross her profile, and he's reminded of dusty piano keys. He slows his breathing and footsteps. Ever since the accident, the symptoms of dissociative amnesia have become more pronounced. Chaotic dreams are a more frequent occurrence. The doctor says these are common side effects of deep space tunnel navigation, and a full recovery will require extended period of rest. The medication has a sedative properties with low fever or drowsiness as side effects. It's important not to use it too often to avoid dependence. Evol monitoring experiment number 742 will now commence. The test subject is a donor of 002. The subject's age is approximately 9 to 10 years old. Several pairs of hands methodically attach data monitoring electrodes to his temples. The door closes. In the pure white room, a mechanical alarm clock sits in the center of the table, its second hand ticking in a silence you only witness in a vacuum. Under multiple gazes, he raises his hand. Within moments, an invisible force compresses the mechanical clock into a metal sheet as thin as the cicada's wings. Time seems to stop. He knows he's always been good at destroying delicate things. The people behind the observation window say that the test subject will become a force comparable to a black hole given time. Not even light could escape it. The dream shifts, and shadows swallow everything again. He, the pilot, the patrol aircraft, alone through deep space tunnel. Darkness surrounds him. Human existence blurs in absolute silence. He's reduced to an insignificant pixel, a disconnected signal in the vast universe. He thinks he hears a voice ask him something. Does it hurt when you fall? Are you scared? In the darkness, someone takes his hand. Their touch is tender, gentle. No matter how many times it takes, I'll always catch your hand. We'll always be under the same sky. The warmth of the touch vanishes. When he opens his palm, he sees a seed gleaming with silvery white light. It's something he's never seen before, like a tiny gift. In the next moment, boundless darkness closes in around him, cold and silent. It grips his throat and slowly chokes him. He can't make a sound. These memories seem to be the only thing he can hold on to. The painkillers are wearing off. This isn't the first time he's woken up from those chaotic dreams, and these episodes have become more frequent since his return. He massages his throbbing temple and looks outside. It had started raining at some point. The door to the room adjacent to his is slightly open. Caleb goes in and sits by the headboard. He watches her sleeping face for a long time before taking her warm hand. His fingers slowly intertwine with hers. He firmly holds her hand and wonders if their tightly woven palm lines are the thread that had pulled him back. Outside, the rain continues to fall, and under the eaves, newly hatched birds in their nest raise their tiny feathers against the wind. Maybe the fledglings will grow strong, new feathers, and leave the nest after the rainy season. Do humans become attached to things like baby birds? He isn't sure. Maybe he's a trapped bird, but outside it's raining. It keeps raining forever and ever. Maybe they'll fly their separate ways once the sky is clear. Chapter 6. Graduation Ceremony. The next time Timothy sees Caleb is at the Aerospace Academy graduation. When the DAA published a selection list, Gideon and Patrick's names appeared, but Caleb's name was nowhere to be found. He only appeared at the bottom of the follow-up list as an alternate candidate with the requirement of a secondary flight assessment. Timothy thinks this must be a devastating failure for someone who's used to being first. Maybe it's even humiliating. The wide-angle lens captures the crowd in the plaza. They're under a sky where clouds flow like water and the blazing sunlight shines. Caleb stands in his official pilot's uniform. He's holding a bouquet of pale blue flowers and smiling at the camera. Wherever he goes, people's gaze follow him with admiration or envy. Their voices drop below a whisper at his name. But his eyes stay fixed in one direction, and his gentle gaze holds whoever he's looking at as if they were precious. You didn't contact me for 2 months. Are you actually not going to explain where you went? I told you. It was an intensive training exercise for situations where I'd be isolated. No communication devices were allowed. Really? Don't lie to me. I'll ask Gideon and the others. Go ahead. I'm telling the truth. But why are you on a first-name basis with them? Am I not enough? Come here. I got this huge bump in the training chamber. But here you are, not feeling sorry for me in the slightest. Really? Let me see. What bump? Is this a pimple or a mosquito bite? Caleb, when did you become so fragile? Can sheer determination carry someone through pathless realm? He used to think that starting a journey was important. The path itself was important. But in the end, he understands that knowing who you are and where you're going matters more than anything. After signing the transfer application and dropping his locker ID card in the return bin, he feels a weight being lifted from his heart. If every flight route has a destination, then maybe he never found his because this wasn't his path to begin with. That was Caleb's Antidote, Pathless Realm, and of course I will be dropping more, so feel free, leave a like and follow. Toodles.